Coast Salish Territory, Port Moody, British Columbia, June 22nd, 2013. Everyone loves a parade. The City of Port Moody hosted the Centennial Parade, along with many centennial-themed events throughout the year. We caught up with the parade at Rocky Point Park. The parade was a prelude to a traditional Indigenous canoe arrival, which opened the day's All Nations Festival, celebrating Port Moody Centennial and First Nations culture together.
Present, future, our city is the best. With Port Moody cheer, put your voices to the test. Yell Port Moody, Port Moody. Past, present, future, our city is the best. With Port Moody cheer, put your voices to the test. Yell Port Moody, Port Moody.
It is in-character actors Colonel R.C. Moody and his wife Mary. Some 150 years ago, Moody commanded the Royal Engineers in the then colony of British Columbia. As they strolled Rocky Point Park prior to the launch of the All Nations Festival, Colonel Moody offers his views of relationships, land, potential, and maintenance.
I had a good relationship with not only the First Nations, but also the many immigrants that came into this area for the gold rush, over which I had some responsibility. And as well, we worked out an amicable opportunity for recognizing that the First Nations were part of the land and that we were becoming part of the First Nations. I think there's real potential and opportunity. I think that when I was here 150 years ago, it was very much a land that belonged to the First Nations and that it belonged to the natural scape. And the city has enhanced that over the years, and there are some possibilities that that enhancement is going to be not maintained.
The Tsleil-Waututh, people of the inlet, have inhabited the lands and waters surrounding what we know as Burrard Inlet since time immemorial, celebrating, caring for, and maintaining the natural environment in the wake of more planned pipelines for the region is a concern. Sundance Chief and Sacred Trust Manager Reuben George explains.
As well as a nation that's celebrating that. And the reason why we're celebrating is where we live is so beautiful. And because it's so beautiful, what we want to do is make sure that we maintain this beauty for our future generations. And that's to make sure that we take a close look at Kinder Morgan and what they're doing and educate people on that. Because as Port Moody citizens, North Vancouver citizens, when we know the true facts about the destruction that these oil companies are causing here in our territory, then as Canadians, I know they would say no. As Port Moody citizens, they would say no. As citizens within the boundaries of the Tsleil-Waututh Nation, I know they would say no.
As the crew set up for the arrival of canoes marking the beginning of the All Nations Festival, Colonel and Mrs. Moody charmed an adoring public at the Rocky Point Park boat launch. Like others, they were there to watch the Indigenous canoes' arrival, a symbolic and meaningful ceremony. In the past, as today, they determined friend or foe, feast or warfare. Tsleil-Waututh elected councillor Charlene Alec, a member of the greeting contingent, explains.
The greeting committee's sole responsibility was to protect and defend and or welcome friendship onto the shores. If they were here for to seek hunting grounds or seek fishing grounds, it was up to the greeting committee to make that their responsibility. Also, welcoming the canoes ashore. The one canoe is from Tsel-Waututh and the next canoe is from Coquitlam. We have a shared interest in this territory of Indian Arm, as Coquitlam sits on the banks and on one side, and Tsleil-Waututh sits on the north side. Today is a celebration, so when the canoes came to the shores, it was in happiness and in celebratory friendship and practicing our traditional ways on the water.
So when we come together, by example, we share our culture and our spirituality, and through that we share some teachings. And those teachings are, number one thing there's a big concern here is Kinder Morgan. It's right in our traditional territory.
At the All Nations Festival, host for the 8 hours, Ronnie Dean Harris, also known as Ostwelv, welcomed the nations gathered. Opening were the children of Takaya of the Tseil-Waututh. The mood is celebratory and welcoming for friends and allies, but there is caution, and the future may be fraught with danger.
Even after all these tears, we're still right here. Yeah, we're still right here. I went to the CC.
From the hip-hop of Sister Says to the Chinook songcatchers of the Squamish Nation, traditional drumming and dance participation, an artisan market, salmon barbecue, poets, media artists, and storytellers. Over 100 Aboriginal artists and performers showcased over 8 hours, a boon for 2 servings of salmon at the All Nations Festival, planned to be an annual event. Everybody. The all-day free All Nations Festival, instructive on welcoming and arrival protocols, educational, colorful, and entertaining for everybody, inclusive of the Musqueam, Tsel-Waututh, and the Squamish, all the Coast Salish people. And from the Squamish, the Sa-Su-Stalquelu Coastal Wopat. Richard Clement Moody was British Columbia's first Lieutenant Governor, selecting now New Westminster as the site for the colony's capital.
Okay, we came from England in 1858, and with us there were 2 servants and 4 children, and we had a challenging time establishing our lives here.
Yes.
Mrs. Moody, what do you have to add to that?
While we were here, we had 3 more children, so we went back to England with 7 children. And today, I'm thrilled to see all the children that are here in Port Moody, because we can see that people are growing families, and that's great for a place like this.
How does it feel to have the city named after you?
Oh, I feel pretty proud and pretty pleased, and there's a lot of passion and energy that I've left behind, and that this city and municipality is building on.
Check 1, 2.
Today, the past and present is celebrated. For the future, the region's residents' many concerns are manifest in the Tsel-Waututh Nation Sacred Trust Initiative, mandated to oppose and stop a Kinder Morgan pipeline project through its territory.
So we're coming together in solidarity, but what we wanted to be clear is when we come together like this, and especially for our relatives that are in our territories, is we want to share and we want to teach. So we're stepping up together as a community to say no to this, because it's important. It's important for the future of our generations. It's not an environmental person problem. It's not a First Nation problem. It's everybody's problem.
I think it's important to exercise our tradition in our traditional territories. So it makes me happy that we're able to share the stage with the many nations, our neighbors, our other communities, and be able to celebrate in this good way and to have that kind of relationship. So it's a good day.
The All Nations Festival is made possible by the City of Port Moody in partnership with Coquitlam School District Aboriginal Education. On Coast Salish, traditional territory in Port Moody, British Columbia. Sid Tan, reporting for W2 Media.